CEO of RISA, heads of cybersecurity agencies, I believe from Somalia and Mozambique, representatives of ATU in the room. I know John Omo is perhaps following us online. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a warm welcome to the 2023 Africa Cyber Defense Forum. To our guests, I believe everyone that spoke before me has already welcomed you enough that I want to believe that by now you're already feeling at home. So for me, I'll just say thank you for choosing to stay with us beyond these 2 days that you're going to be here. The rapid evolution of cyber threats and the cyber threats landscape presents unprecedented challenges. The sophistication and complexity of these challenges require that we work together to ensure the readiness to respond as well as adequately mitigate some of the global cyber threats. Recent reports indicate that the next 5 years are due to see a 15% increase globally in cyber crimes, probably even more thanks to the rapid evolution of new technologies. Additionally, what we are seeing is that cyber criminals are harnessing technology advances to create more sophisticated cyber threats, but also in many ways, cyber criminals are developing new tactics. With AI and machine learning, there is increased automation, speed, frequency, targeting, and efficiency of these attacks that we are seeing globally. Further reports also indicate that approximately 90% of African businesses operate without robust cybersecurity measures. And the prevalence of cybercrime has increased by at least 76% in some of the African nations. Africa's rapid development and digitization calls for all of us in this room and those that are following us online to be equally prepared to deal with the rapid evolution of these cyber threats. When we take a look at some of the key cyber threat trends that characterize the global cybersecurity landscape, we'll see that they will range from ransom attacks targeting critical infrastructure, increasing sophisticated phishing techniques coupled with social engineering, the Internet of Things vulnerabilities brought about by the increased connectivity of devices and things, to data breaches and deepfake technologies. But what we also see is that eventually there's consistently across the board globally a lack or a shortage of cyber security skills. And I'll also talk about what the gaps that we're seeing when it comes to the regulatory environment and complex changes and the compliance changes. But let's talk about the cybersecurity skills shortage, which I think in many ways, as we deal with the complexity and the growing nature of cyber threats, we also need to be able not just to increase our skills to deal with this, but to increase the workforce that is able to deal with this in a permanent way. When I walked into the room, I remember that part of my talking points, I wanted to highlight the gender gap in cybersecurity. And I couldn't help but notice how that is reflected even in the room that we are in here today. So I really do hope that as we leave this place, we go back with even more commitments on how we double this. We're talking about red teams and blue teams. I'll stand for the red team just because of how I'm dressed today. But we need to see more diversity in the cybersecurity workforce, because with that comes also the ability to address some of these threats that will be targeted to specific segments of our society. And just a little bit on the gender gap inside the cybersecurity that continues to remain a challenge, but also reflects the broader disparities that we see in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. Women are underrepresented. We have less than a third of women in this and girls in this workforce. But I think what's more disheartening is that even that third, less than a third workforce that we have of female, they earn 3/4 of their male counterparts in the cybersecurity industry. So not only do we have to address the gap of having more female representation or women representation in the cybersecurity industry, we also need to ensure that the pay gap is also addressed in very meaningful ways. I'll move swiftly to regulations because I know if we start the topic of women underrepresentation, we can go all day, and that can be a topic on its own for this summit. But I do believe everyone in this room, at least from the nods that I'm seeing, you do agree that this is something that we need to tackle, but also tackle urgently. The gaps in regulations, when we look at them, it's not just the absence of regulations, it's also the inconsistency in these regulations. And so that already creates a huge gap for how we tackle cyber threats and how we come together to address the growing complexity of these cyber threats. So there is the work that has to go in to streamline what already exists, but also to take stock of what doesn't exist so that we can collectively make sure that at least from a regulatory and policy environment, we have all the necessary instruments in place that will support how we defend ourselves better. But in all of this, I think, Gilbert, you rightly said it, digital trust will continue to be the linchpin of our future. The low levels of preparedness can have significant consequences on the security and the development of not just our countries, but also the entire African continent. Given this challenge at hand, it's also logical for both the public sector, private sector, academia, to work more closely together to defend our shared cyberspace. It's critical for all these actors to exchange experience, to cultivate a collaborative approach to cyber resilience. In response to the evolving cyber landscape, Rwanda has taken proactive measures to protect its citizens and foster a secure digital environment. The recent enactment of the Personal Data Protection and Privacy Law is a significant step in empowering individuals with greater control over their personal information. And furthermore, the establishment of the Data Protection Office reinforces Rwanda's commitment to uphold data privacy rights and ensure compliance with international data protection standards. As we continue to implement this law and ensure compliance to this law, we're eager to learn from the experiences of other nations that are represented here and beyond as we collectively enhance our cyber resilience. The importance of a secure and reliable data ecosystem can also not be overstated. It's the foundation with which sustainable digital economies are built. Our recent AI policy, which was already highlighted from other speakers, recognizes the critical aspect and emphasizes the need for a well-protected data environment complemented by the development of skilled human capital and robust infrastructure. A sustainable and inclusive future for Africa hinges on prioritizing cybersecurity. Together, we must stand in solidarity against cyber threats. We must support one another in strengthening our cyber defense capabilities. As we participate in the meaningful discussions and share knowledge during this forum, let us endeavor to identify collaborative solutions to intricate challenges we face, such as bridging the cybersecurity skills gap, building a diverse cybersecurity workforce, and ensuring that all of this is geared towards having a secure and resilient cybersecurity landscape for Africa. So I want to end on this note by really emphasizing the need for cooperation, which is very paramount to ensuring that we have a secure and resilient cyberspace. Through those collective efforts, we can establish a network that will effectively deal and combat these cyber threats. I also want to thank everyone for your participation during this forum and extend my best wishes for the successful and insightful deliberations that will happen over the next 2 days. As we depart from this gathering, I hope we depart with a renewed commitment to building a sustainable, inclusive, and secure future. In the meantime, golf away. We need the mental and physical energy to deal with these challenges. Thank you.